I think we are up and running. I could be wrong. Let me check our... Okay, sorry guys. I'm using some new software here, so I just want to kind of double check what's going on, make sure that everything's working properly, because I can't see any of your comments, and that's not good. So, give me a second to just figure this out, and I may have to jump out of here if we can't figure it out and reset start a new live the old-fashioned way. Let's see here, content. We are live. I can see that we are live, but I can't see your comments. So I think let's see here, content. Beautiful. We are live. I can see that we are live, but I can't see your comments. So I think let's see here, content. Beautiful. Okay, guys. So I think we're going to get started. Now, forgive me for the technical nonsense here. And things are a little bit of a you-know-what show. I am going to... Let's see here. Okay, so now I can see your comments, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start... I'll minimize this, pull up some video, and then we'll kind of get started because I want to be able to see your comments and then go from there. So we recently did a little video on e-collars, and I did a little video on the e-collar study. I guess it was done in 2020 in the UK. And I think what we need to do is talk a little bit about that study. So obviously, guys, what I did was, yeah, I am getting techie, you know, but I got to work on this a little bit because as you guys can see, it's a little bit of a jumble. Anyways. As you guys saw, I did a little video on e-collar training. And, you know, there was this, I guess, this study in the UK about how the e-collars were proven to not be nearly as effective as positive reinforcement training. So, I mean, anybody that knows anything about e-collar training, I mean, it just didn't make any kind of sense. It was obviously nonsense. So the problem that occurs with that is whenever you put the word scientific study on something, you have to understand that a lot of people give that a lot of credence. The word science is so, you know, it's almost like back in the day, like about 150 years ago, if you said because God said so or because the priest said so, it carries the same kind of weight, right? Like science has become like the replacement for basically organized religion. So you have to understand that a lot of the people that kind of push the science and tout the science and kind of use the science as a bludgeon to bully you into, you know, believing whatever it is they believe or shame you if you question their beliefs. It's the same thing as back in the day when they would call you a heretic and question what kind of a person you were because you didn't believe maybe in the same way that they believed in God or whatever else. So I think I've kind of made my point on that. But anyways, what happened was I made this video and I showed 3 e-collar trained dogs. Okay, I showed 3 e-collar trained dogs, all strong dogs, all high drive dogs. And, the assertion basically of the study in the UK was that the dogs that were trained with almost primarily positive reinforcement, um, you know, where they say primarily positive reinforcement, I don't know if they're leaving something out. Maybe they do correct the dogs and they just primarily reward them. Well, I guess we would kind of fall into that category too, because I'd say about 70% of what we do, and that number can go up and go down depending on the specific dog we're dealing with, is actually positive reinforcement. So I don't think, though, that that was the purpose of the study. I think they were basically trying to say that any kind of dog, the training was primarily positive reinforcement, and maybe they're counting like negative punishment, which is when you withhold a treat, as the exception to that. So, anyways, they said that those dogs that were trained that way were faster and were more reliable. And on the flip side, the dogs that were e-collar trained were slower and less reliable. Now, there are a lot of arguments made on a regular basis that e-collars are unethical, they're mean, they're terrible, they're horrible, whatever else. If that's going to be the hill that you choose to die on, no problem. But lately, as with all things, they've started to try and imply, well, they didn't try to imply, they basically said it, the e-collar is unnecessary. We achieve the exact same thing with positive only reinforcement. You don't need to do anything else. At worst, you just do negative punishment. Negative punishment, those of you who don't know, it's just when you withhold food, right? Or you have his ball and you withhold his ball. So when he's being aggressive, and let's say he's going after another dog, you say, Fluffy, no liver for you. And, withholding the treat stops that behavior, according to them, right? Okay, that's an example of if you would use negative punishment. So, this is a different thing. And to this study, I took exception. I mean, all the other studies were nonsense too, to be honest with you. But to this specific study, I took exception because I'm like, okay, now we're just kind of in never land. We're not making any kind of sense right now. And at that point, I said, okay, it's time to put up. It's time to show people what an e-collar trained dog is. Now, I have a number of dogs here. I have dogs in all stages of e-collar training, right? I had 3 dogs that day on site that happened to have already gone through quite a bit of e-collar training. And I thought it was pertinent because all 3 of those dogs had gotten, a good wide spectrum of e-collar training. They'd had really high level corrections. They'd had really low level conditioning. They've been worked around a lot of really heavy distractions. They've been worked in a really high state of arousal. So those dogs had really gone through the gamut of e-collar training. So surely if the study was true, these dogs are going to be slow, they're going to be unreliable, whatever else. So you guys saw the results. You guys saw the results. And guess what happened, right? Like, I knew this was going to happen. Immediately, within I don't even think 24 hours passed, the hate started rolling in. And initially I kind of ignored it because I knew it was going to get them because, they're used to being unopposed. The problem is a lot of dog trainers out there do not, what's the word? They don't engage. They don't feed the trolls. When people say mean things, when people say incorrect things, they just ignore them and carry on. Here's my problem with that, and here's why I don't do that. So it really kind of started when this a lady, I think, her name, on Instagram, she basically added me. So obviously she watches my YouTube channel. Thank you, by the way. I hope you like and subscribe, or even dislike the video. It's important. If you don't like the video, make sure you dislike it. I think her name is The Situated Canine, okay, on Instagram. So anyways, if you follow me on Instagram, you saw all the nonsense that went down. So anyways, what this lady does is she adds me, right? I mean, I don't know what you're doing. It's important to understand, right? Like, if you're going to at somebody, you're really making sure that they see the comment. If you want to just write some nonsense and you and your followers see it, no problem. But when you at somebody, that's a challenge. So, again, a lot of the balance trainers out there, a lot of the guys with the channels and with the big business and so on and so forth, I know they don't respond. I know that I'm not supposed to respond. I'm just supposed to, let my work speak for itself and move forward and be the bigger man and whatever else. But here's the problem. That doesn't work. We've seen how little that works in Europe, right? All these guys that are winning the championships, all these guys on the WSV world teams, all these guys on the BSP, they are training all the time now in other countries. They're not able to be honest about what it is that they do. You know, they took that road of, I'll just be quiet, I'll keep my head down, I'll let these crazy ladies with the blue hair, talk about whatever they're going to talk about. I'll let these, pseudo-scientists, make all these ridiculous assertions. I'm just going to train dogs because that's all I know how to do, and that's all I'm going to do. And I'm the world team guy. I'm the winner of the last 2 world championships in a row. I'm the best dog trainer in the world. Surely none of this is going to impact me. And now you see they're forced to train in secret like they're criminals because these people literally try to vilify them at every opportunity, literally to the point where they hide cameras, at these guys' clubs where they take, pictures with telephoto lenses, trying to like insinuate that because a dog was maybe moving its head to the side that it was getting an e-collar correction that you can't see or something like that to basically get these people arrested. Because in a lot of these countries now in Western Europe, right, they've made certain training methods and certain training tools illegal, right? You've got Sweden on one extreme where everything under the sun, including I think maybe even making a mean face to your dog, is illegal. And then, you've got certain countries where either a pinch collar or a e-collar is illegal. Now, of course, anybody who wants to compete on the top level, they still have to use these devices. It's just, especially with the kind of dogs that you need to use in order to win on that level, right? You're using all sorts of training methods that people don't think you're using, but of course you have to use them in order to be successful. Otherwise, you're not going to use them. Guess what? The other guy is going to use them, and he's going to be more successful than you. Now, you can say, well, it's not worth it. Has trophies. That's not ethical. You're abusing dogs for the sake of trophies. No. You're using simply the best training methods available. If positive reinforcement training, right? If positive reinforcement training was so effective and was so good and worked so well the way that they would like you to believe, then surely you'd be winning the world championships, right? You'd be beating all these tracking, obedience, protection with strong dogs. You would be putting all those guys away. Your dog would look happier. Here's the thing. In the sport that I play in IGP, which in my opinion, and most people's opinion, is probably the most complicated dog sport in the entire world. It's basically like 3-day eventing. You've got tracking, you've got obedience, you've got protection, you've got competing motivators, you've got stressors, you've got all sorts of stuff that come into play, right? That you're not going to get in one-dimensional sports like, say, agility or dock diving or whatever else. So this is the kind of stuff, right, where the rubber meets the road. You can't afford to be anything less than the best if you want to play on the top levels in those types of sports, right? So if the good thing about the sport is where training techniques are developed and refined, right? So the stuff that police departments maybe are doing now, the stuff that you're starting to see come into maybe military working dog programs, all that type of stuff, a lot of these methods were actually refined in sport. A lot of I see a lot of police guys, they're into the Nepo-Po, right? Guess where Nepo-Po was developed? Nepo-Po was developed in dog sport. Okay, by Bart Bellon, he competed in dog sport. Dog sport, competition, the field of competition is where the best methods are developed, because if you have the best methods, your dog will do the best. Here's the other thing. Your dog cannot be stressed, or not stressed to the point where he's unable to perform, because we're judged on stress. If you have a dog that exhibits too much stress, guess what's going to happen? You're going to lose points. You can even be dismissed now. So your dog showing a good, happy, powerful presence in the work is essential. So anyways, let me see here, guys. Let's talk a little bit about that. So I got some criticism from some of you guys even that agree with what I was kind of saying in my debunking of the e-collar training videos, right? I got some you guys saying, well, I should have just talked about the study. I should have just read the study and debunked the study and all this type of stuff. Listen, guys, this is YouTube. If it's not entertaining, nobody's going to watch it. Okay? So, of course, I have to put an element of showmanship, an element of entertainment into the video. But the point was simply this. Either it works, either it's effective, or it's not. It turns the dogs either into basket cases, or it makes dogs who are fast, who are powerful, and who are correct and reliable in their obedience. I think what I showed in that video conclusively debunks that study. Now, some people were saying, people that were more on the side of the anti-e-collar crowd were saying, well, you didn't follow the study properly. The study was only like 5 days. Yeah, exactly. The study was 5 days, okay, of 250 minutes of e-collar training or any kind of training. Like, that's not a realistic training regime. Like, I don't consider anything under 4 weeks to be tangible training. Yeah, maybe 2-3 weeks you can do something, but nothing like substantial, nothing tangible, nothing where you can kind of sit back and say, okay, I have something to judge now, right? But again, listen, when you look at studies on just about anything these days, all right, I'm not going to get political, okay? But when you look at studies on just about anything these days, right? Like whether we're talking about nutrition, COVID-19, anything, right? They're very biased. There's 100%. Let's call them fact-finding. Not even fact-finding. They're basically there to prove a point. They're not there to actually discover anything, right? And when an actual study, like when a scientific assertion completely runs counter to observable fact and reality, you know that there's something wrong with the scientific assertion. So anyways, back to the little Instagram drama. And it's important. I'm actually going to bring it up. So the reason why I chose to interact with these people that kind of came at me on Instagram and added me, like they put the @ sign and mentioned me and basically kind of tried to make fun of me. I don't know. I think they actually thought that I was actually pretending, like I was joking about being a scientist because the scientific study was such a joke that pretty much anybody could be a scientist if that's the standard that we're going to go by, right? But I think, again, they're obviously maybe not the sharpest tools in the drawer, so to speak, but I think they actually thought that I thought I was a scientist for the 25 minutes that I shot that video. So anyways, they kind of added me and basically were trying to make fun of me and ridicule me. So, look, I'm not the kind of guy that turns the other cheek. It's just, I'm not one of those guys, right? I don't turn the other cheek. And not only that, it's also important to understand that these are the types of people that push for the laws to be changed. These are the types of people that try to throw trainers that actually know what they're doing in jail, that try to basically criminalize what they do. The things that the success that they've had, it's not, listen, if they were going to say, I'm going to stay in my own lane, I'm going to train dogs the way I believe they should be trained, and that guy's going to do whatever he does, I don't agree with any of that stuff. I think he's a horrible person, but I'm going to do my thing, right? I actually kind of think the same thing about them, and I would like to do that. I would like to be like, hey, you know what? Do you. You do you. I'm going to do me, and we'll see how it all turns out. Well, we already know how it's turning out for me because it's pretty well documented. Not so much for them. But anyways, you can't be quiet with these people. You can't turn the other cheek. And this was the mistake that the Europeans made, right? The Europeans that actually know what they're doing when it comes to dog training. They let these people talk. They let them come into the club. They let them sit and watch the training. They let them raise their voice when they have absolutely no accomplishments. They didn't slap them down the way that they deserve to be slapped down, right? You haven't done anything. You haven't achieved anything. You can't do anything. Why are you talking, right? Like I wouldn't have even like the nerve if I was on that level to even like look those guys in the eye, right? So you have to understand it from that perspective. You can't turn the other cheek. And I wanted to prove to you guys, because I know you guys probably kind of get a little bit tired and roll your eyes when I talk about this stuff. You're like, who's Has talking to? We're on his side. We believe him. We can see the dogs that are being trained. You don't understand. There's a lot of people that don't have the time to watch, me train dogs on YouTube or some other guy train dogs on YouTube. And all they do is they see something like shock collars, like they'll just read the title, right? Study proves shock collars are less effective than positive reinforcement only training. And they'll say, my God, those shock collars sound terrible. Positive reinforcement only training sounds wonderful. And, yes, they should be banned. And guess what? You present that to a politician. What's the politician going to say? He's going to say, no, I'm going to fight for the devices that shock dogs. No, again, he doesn't have time either. And he says, well, this seems like an easy slam dunk. I'll support the dogs and I'll look good and my constituents will like me and, we'll go from there. So the only way that you actually deal with these people is you confront them head on and you confront them with their incompetence. Okay? Because believe me, their incompetence knows no bounds. You confront them with their inability. You show them, right, the difference between what they do and what you do. And in many cases, you'll find that the loudest voices don't even do anything. They don't even do positive training, right? So I fed the trolls because I wanted you guys to see the animal that we're dealing with. I wanted you to see the mentality that we're dealing with, okay? And I'm going to kind of pull up the Instagram profile in question. And we're going to look at we're going to look at some of the statements that this person makes, all right? Now, let's keep this in mind, okay? Couple things. This person added me. So when I didn't pick this person. I know there's a bunch of other positive only trainers out there. I didn't let's say pick this person out of a hat. She's the one who started with me. And to be honest, when I responded to her, I expected at least that she's going to be training like some border collies. There's going to be some, maybe little miniature Australian shepherds doing tricks in an empty room for treats. She doesn't even have that level of work, right? But apparently, this is her own words, not mine, studying to get her PhD in animal behavior. So again, one of the individuals that people are going to look to, people who don't know better, are going to look to for advice. One of the individuals that's, I'm sure, going to be, lobbying politicians to make, proven effective and successful training methods that actually legitimately save dogs' lives illegal. Right? And ultimately will lead to the death of many dogs. And that's no BSing. I'm not being like melodramatic. It's really actually very true. Like you wouldn't believe how many times people bring dogs to me because there's literally, this is the last stop. They've been to the positive only trainers. They've been to the situated canines of the world. They've been to several of those places. They've been to the PhD animal behaviorist. This is the last stop before we go to the vet and we give the puppy the blue juice because we can't get him to stop biting us. And I'm not talking like a puppy, legitimately a puppy. I'm saying like an actual dog. He's put a jogger in hospital. He's on a muzzle order. He can't go around other dogs without pulling his 100-pound owner down on the ground and has broken, her hip. Like, this is literally every day here we get these dogs. So it's all fun and games, on Instagram and on YouTube. We talk a little bit of nonsense and kind of twit each other a little bit. But you have to understand that a lot of the dogs that come to us, they're playing for real stakes. Like, if it's not I've got two of my trainers, adopted dogs that the owners decided, like, hey, like, this dog is just too much for me, right? Because if they didn't adopt those dogs, the dogs were going to be put down, right? Like, every day here we have dogs with that story. So, anyways, this is the individual. that we're dealing with here, or the business, I should say, because this is the page that we're dealing with. So I'm just going to kind of give you guys a little taste of the type of stuff that we're dealing with here. And hey, if you want to go and follow her, hey, listen, guys, one thing, I'm using this as educational stuff. Don't go contacting this person. I don't need you guys to do that. Don't go harassing her or sending her mean messages or anything like that. What needs to be said is going to be said here, and it's been said on Instagram. People kind of saw through everything and saw her for the type of person that she was and the abilities that she has, and it is what it is. So don't go bothering her. That's not the purpose of this. This is an educational thing. So anyways, let's see here. So a lot of shock collars provide trainers with an outlet for their frustration. Okay, so and she shows this dog a lot in her videos. He doesn't really ever do anything, so I assume he doesn't really know how to do anything, because usually, people that train dogs like to actually show their dogs doing stuff, and she doesn't really have any videos of her doing stuff. She has videos of other people doing stuff, and she sure is very critical of them. So when you see an account that's primarily oriented towards basically criticizing people that are actually training, that's a red flag. But it's not very uncommon in the force-free community, because again, a lot of them they don't really have a lot of business, unfortunately. So they got a lot of time on their hands, so they can watch people that actually do have business and criticize everything that they do. And that's one thing. But again, we all know where this leads. So let's see here. So back to this. Shock collars provide trainers with an outlet for their frustrations. All right, let's talk about that. Do you notice the emotional language, right? The emotional kind of shaming language. Like they can't understand that someone might dispassionately, like without even maybe with regret, correct an animal for something. The only way you can correct an animal is if you have some kind of internal desire to correct an animal. It's like you can always see, I call that emotional projection, right? Because you can't comprehend why anyone would do anything without coming from a place of emotion, because you yourself live an entire life that is very emotional, right? You don't have any control on your emotions, so you kind of project that onto other people. That's why they do it. And it's not unique to her, right? They're all like that. They all say things like that. Oh, you feel like a big man using your e-collar. How would you like it if I used it on you? They'll say things like that. They use a lot of this kind of like shaming language. They try to, again, project like a malicious emotional intent upon you, right? And again, it's emotional projection. These people often, the reason why they're so rabidly, into this type of stuff is because instead of, unfortunately, dealing with a lot of the issues that they tend to have, they want to project it onto other people, right? Anyways, let's go on. Okay, so let me move on here. I'm gonna just find one more thing here before we move on to e-collars, and we'll talk real actual e-collar training. Okay. Using positive punishment to correct reactive, aggressive, and fearful behavior is equivalent of a firefighter bringing a flamethrower to a house fire. Well, that's actually scientifically incorrect. Positive punishment is the application of an aversive that causes a reduction or complete extinction within a specific behavioral contingency situated canine. So, if you applied positive punishment effectively to, let's say, reactive behavior, which I do here on a daily basis, by the way, then, of course, based on the scientific definition, the reactive behavior would be reduced and or completely removed. That's like the literal definition of positive punishment. What she should have written, and again, These people don't tend to know actually a lot about punishment and pressure other than what they've read and what other people have told them, right? What she should have written is, if you intend to apply positive punishment to a behavior that you don't like, and you see that behavior escalate, you've actually negatively reinforced that behavior. I think that was the sciencey thing that you should have said, right? If you actually know how to apply positive punishment and you're able to read the individual dog and you know how to punish that specific behavior effectively, guess what? The behavior kind of goes away because science, right? But hey, enough talk. Let's go and look. Okay, so this is an example, right? This dog, Leo, came in. He was out of control. There's a little quick snippet here. So this is how he came in a muzzle. He muzzle punched me. He was going after people, okay? And then this is basically the dog we were dealing with, a complete fear-aggressive dog, right? Now this is him now, right? He's being friendly, he's social, he's open, he's under control, he's not pulling on the leash. Do you think we just gave him cookies to make him like this? Of course not. Now, I'm sure, she could do much better and has examples of the work that she's done that's much better. And all her friends, and hey, bring anybody, Karen Pryor, Victoria Stilwell, bring any of them. Show me them fixing a dog like that. You will never see it, right? You will never see it. So the proof is in the pudding, right? Her assertion is X. Number one, scientifically incorrect if you want to be a real stickler, okay? And number two, again, we've provided, and this isn't the only video. I've got many, many videos, but, we have only so much time. This is the evidence. The evidence speaks for itself. So, wrong again. Let's now look at a fearful dog that we've trained with an e-collar. Okay, so remember this dog? This was a puppy, and her owners might be watching, right? She came to us as a puppy, and hey guys, if you're watching, I hope you guys are doing well. I've been watching you guys on Instagram. I see how well you're doing. So this puppy came to us, no training. This is day one, right? Look at the behavior of the puppy. Completely stressed, shut down, fearful, and she was like that, very reactive when the owners brought her in. Of course, that's why they brought her, because they were really struggling with the behavior, and they didn't know where to go. And I think they went somewhere else, and again, surprise, surprise, didn't work out. Look at the stress behavior in the dog. This is before any training. There's no devices on the dog. Nothing's been ever done to her. Just her state of being. High fear, high avoidance, right? Let's show you guys some more here. So you see her. Look at the way that she walks, slinking on the ground, just stress. She's, every time this dog dealt with stress, she just completely shut down, right? And that was her default. That was her genetic default was, hey, stress, shut down, or flee, right? Now, one of those positive-only trainers, what are they going to do? They're going to tell you about thresholds and flooding and, just give her treats and all that stuff. You think they didn't try that? You think they didn't try the treats and the thresholds? Of course it didn't work, right? The dog has, people would look at that dog and say, oh, it's something bad. Nothing bad happened to her. Her owners bought her. Her owners bought her as a puppy, and they love her. Believe me, these people are like doggy parents. They love the crap out of the dog, and she's just like that. So, this is the one lie that positive-only training kind of purports, is like all dogs are like this blank slate, and if there's a problem, it's because you did something wrong, or some evil, malicious person did something wrong in the past, and that with the application of positive only reinforcement and maybe some negative punishment, if you're really feeling mean one day, you can make the dog into whatever it is you want to be. No, that's wrong. That puppy, okay, is a wonderful example of a dog that really struggles with genetic fear. It's bred into her. And guess what? I got her brother shortly after this. He was the same way. Maybe not quite as bad, right? But very similar. And I think I got another litter mate. I think I trained like half the litter. And they were like that, right? And it's not the first time. It's not the first time I've seen it. It was just the first time I videoed it and actually talked about it in an honest way. Okay? So there's not a blank slate. There's a lot of things already on the slate. And if you know anything about genetics, in relation to anything, forget just dogs, you know that that's the case, right? So anyways, that was number one. Now let's see what we did. So this was after like 4 or 5 weeks of training. I think it was 4 weeks, right? So there's an e-collar on the dog. So we put an e-collar on a fearful dog, all right? As you can see, completely falling apart, just terrified, right? This was before, right? So I'm showing you the before just so you guys kind of get an idea of what we were dealing with. Didn't want food, super stressed. So now you can see has a nice, happy relationship. She's playing with the trainer, and we've used the e-collar. It's not that we haven't used it. We've absolutely used it, right? And the dog is able now to become more open. She's able to kind of use her brain. Is she still stressed sometimes? Of course. Of course, this is who she is. But now she's learned to deal with the stress. Now, the positive only trainer, you would still be, just working your way down the driveway from your house because you don't want to flood her and play with thresholds and all this stuff. The dog was born flooded. What are you going to do? You're just going to keep her in the house for the rest of her life? The owners don't want to live like that. And guess what? The dog doesn't want to live like that. It's not her fault she was born like that. So what do? We take the dog that nature gave us, and we use real training to maximize that dog's potential. Look at her now, right? And I see the owners on Instagram, they've continued this work, and good for them. A lot of play, but also obligation. Hey, you have to do it, right? And their positive only trainer would be like, oh, look, she licked her lips and pinned her ears. Yeah, she did. Did you see how she walked in? Do you see her now? Not only is she not completely shut down, right? She's actually able to do something. So, as you guys know, my training isn't only on the field by myself. You will never see, I don't care who you pick. You can pick any of your most favorite positive only trainer. Karen Pryor, Dr. Sophia Yin. I know all the names, guys. I know all the names, right? Whatever, the guy on YouTube, the guy who's like the most famous guy on YouTube, whatever. They will never show you in the real world under distraction. The real world for them is the sidewalk where nobody's walking in front of their house. I show you everywhere in my videos. And other balance trainers, and we use the word balance because we use everything. We use all spectrums of learning, right? We use negative, positive punishment, negative punishment. We use classical conditioning, lots of things we use in the training process. So anyways, I took the dog to Walmart now, right? And obviously, this is Walmart. This is scary, right? And you can see now, this is her first time at Walmart. And you will watch now how we handle the dog, right? So we still maintain the play. Now, she's stressed. What's the solution to the stress? Play with thresholds and spend 6 months in front of Walmart? No. We show the dog. We've already laid the foundation. She knows how to deal with the pressure. We understand and accept that the stress is there. We don't try to play games where we avoid the stress. We say, this is the stress. Deal with it. Come through it. Oh, no, you're flooding, Has. Yeah, well, now she's living a good life, and her owners are actually able to do things with the dog. Oh, that was scary. There's a shopping cart. There's cars. You can see the dog's eyes are going everywhere, right? And the trainer does use the e-collar from time to time, right? And the dog, again, takes the dog through the play there. She got nervous from me coming up on her, right? Because here's the thing with stress cases. You can de-stress them in a specific spot, but when you go to a new spot, guess what? The stress comes back. Probably the positive-only trainers wouldn't admit that, right? But that's true. So what you do if you're a really good dog trainer is you actually go everywhere and you do as much work as you can to get the dog to deal with the stress in multivariate environments, right? Now, did I need to use an e-collar for this? No. The reason I used the e-collar is so the owners could have an off-leash recall in case the dog gets scared and takes off. Guess what? They can call her and they don't need the leash. They don't have to be worried. You know how many people come to me and they have a dog who's extremely, oh, that was scary, have a dog who's extremely afraid. And the dog goes into flight, never been trained before in its life, but goes into flight and just takes off, right? Or has some positive training. For me, when someone says, oh yeah, we went to wherever positive only training, but I don't even consider it training. I say, oh, okay. Okay, so we have to start from scratch, right? Because the dog really doesn't actually know anything. So, as you can see, this is a real extreme fear case, and this is how we deal with them. Now, the way this person, that person that we were talking about, she would have you believe that we're just zapping the dog on high levels all the time and standing there and kind of getting our rocks off doing that. No, we're saying to the dog, hey, even though you're stressed, you still have to do some productive things. You have to move forward. You have to be obedient. But on the flip side of it, we're going to encourage you and play with you whenever possible, right? That's real life training. And that's what these guys won't show you. Okay, guys, let's see here. So let me just go one more. Now, this dog was an interesting dog, guys. And again, this dog, he came to us just out of control. Okay, like he was a big pit bull, about 99 pounds, 99, maybe 90 to 100 pounds. And he came to us completely out of control. And the interesting thing with him was not like how he was in the beginning. He was, just your typical out of control dog, no real training, no impulse control, et cetera, et cetera. Now with him, what would happen was when we said to him, okay, sir, we've shown you now for a couple of weeks what you must do. Now, if you don't listen, the consequence escalates, right? So we're going to use the e-collar. We're using the e-collar anyways. And the consequence, people view the e-collar as just like the big stick. It's like, okay, I've tried everything. Now I use the e-collar. The e-collar is not the big stick. The e-collar, if you know what you're doing, is the tool. Because you can use it across so many different spectrums and on so many different levels. But for me, when I functionally train a dog, once I've laid the foundation, I make obligation. You must listen. You must do it, right? So with this dog, it was interesting because what happened with him was when we said you must, he said, I think I'll bite you, right? And no, it wasn't just, all of a sudden out of the blue, we shocked him on a high level. No, it was a slow escalation. And he would always reach a point where he said, okay, I don't want to heal. I want to go see that other dog. If you try to make me heal, I'm going to come for you. And when he came, right? If you weren't trying to make him do anything, he was a nice guy. So this is the kind of dog, the positive only trainers, they use the smoke and the mirrors. Look how well he's listening. And they're just, Pez dispensing hot dogs into the dog in an empty room. Oh, look, he's healing. He's sitting. He's downing. It's like, that's not real training. This is what you're going to see here, this is the result of real training, right? That's the result. That's the real world, okay? That's what people want. People want their dog to be able to do these kinds of things because when your dog does these kinds of things, life is easy. It was 4 years ago, this video. Yes, he was a bad puller. But really, the best stuff that he did was not caught on camera. By the way, my old video editing skills were horrendous, in case you can't tell. So again, this is real world training, right? This is what we want. We don't want dogs that are just good in an empty room or in an empty field. Now, was the e-collar essential to this? Not to this. Like this stuff you can actually do without an e-collar. It's when the dog makes distance from you. The reason why you use an e-collar, well, there's 1,000 reasons you use an e-collar. And it really depends on your goals and the specific thing that you're doing. But one of the biggest reasons, and the most simplest reasons that we use an e-collar, is quite simply that dogs aren't stupid, and they know when there's a leash attached to them and not. You can play games with like lighter lines and, using very thin polypropylene lines and stuff like this. But a lot of dogs are pretty smart, and they know when there's a leash on them and when there's not. And they know, because this has been their life, that if there is a leash on them, they must listen to you. And if there isn't, well, listening becomes optional. And if there's something we call, let's say a good competing motivator comes by. So let's say another big male walked by with his tail up and looked at this guy a little bit too long. That's what we call a competing motivator. And that's when he says, fuck your ball, fuck your hot dogs, I'm going to go see what that guy has to say to me. And then you have yourself a dog fight. That's real life. All right? That's real life. So this is where, of course, the positive only training falls flat. It's not that you don't use it. I literally used to go to Walmart and buy crates of hot dogs. And I go through a ton of them. Because for sure, positive reinforcement is important. You don't use it by itself. It doesn't work by itself. And no, negative punishment, withholding the hot dogs while he goes to fight with the other big male, it's not going to work either. Right? That's why you see all the positive trainers with leashes. And they will say, oh no, it's because it's the law and we want... I have walked by 1,000 police officers and, hundreds of bylaw guys with my dogs off leash like that. You know what they do? They say, wow, man, those are some nice dogs. Because the dog is so under control, it would be absolutely ridiculous to even speak to me about the lack of a leash. The lack of a leash is for the people that went to the positive-only trainers, because their dogs are not under control, right? So you always see the positive-only trainers when their dog's off the leash is dragging a line, or when it's in town, it's always on the leash, on the harness or something, because it's not trustworthy, right? Dog's not going to stay with them because the dog, yes, the dog might love them, and my dogs love me too, right? It's not a question of that. It's a question of just because you love someone. Look. I love my dad. Okay, I love my dad. I don't need to be next to him all the time. There's competing motivators. When I was young, especially, there was girls, there was sports, there was my friends, there was video games, right? There was competing motivators. I didn't want to always be next to my dad. Do you think your dog is any different, right? Since we're going to use a very human example, of course not. So what the e-collar does is it creates obligation. And why would you need to create obligation? Well, in case you haven't noticed it, the world's a very dangerous place for an out-of-control dog. Even if, let's say this pit bull, he jumped on somebody. Guess what? Pit bulls are actually illegal in Ontario. If this pit bull even jumped and scratched somebody with his paw, okay, that dog's going to get seized and more than likely put down. All right? That dog, if he runs into traffic, guess what's going to happen? Guess what's going to happen? He's going to die. Okay? There's so many consequences for dogs that are out of control. You know, dogs that are terrible to live with, what happens to them? Their owners just say, I can't do it anymore. This dog is horrendous, right? Like, living with this dog is no fun for me. What happens to those dogs? Well, of course, right? They get put down or they get surrendered at the animal shelter. It's not usually a good end. There are real-world consequences for these animals if they don't have some semblance of control. Would we like them to enjoy that experience as much as possible? Of course. But there's a certain reality, right, that we have to acknowledge. So, I think I've been talking long enough. Let's get in the content, the comments, and then I'm going to show you guys some more stuff, and we'll talk some more. All right, guys, I'm going to scroll to the top quick and kind of go through some of this stuff. And guys, by the way, I'm still struggling a little bit with this this format. Like, I can't see things the way I'm used to seeing things on a live. I'm going to have to figure this out. Okay, that lady had almost zero training video at all. Yeah, I know, because she doesn't really train dogs. Let's see here. Can't even have a crate door on the crate in Sweden. That is crazy. Guys, do you know how many dogs the crate saves? You know how many dogs are dead animals, okay? They don't actually, especially for the more insecure ones, the more space you give them, the more anxious and excited they get, okay? Especially when they're young. The crate really helps the dog settle down. It really assists in the house training process. It gives the dog a safe place to be and to go. It also helps the dog deal with the unnatural experience of being separated from its pack. Guess who if your dog lives with you and nobody else, guess who's the pack of they're very social. They're meant to be with you. They want to be with you. You have to go to work though. You have to pay those bills. You have to buy the dog food. Some people have to leave their dog at home for 8 hours. Now, when you leave that stressed, scared, and anxious dog alone in the house, what can happen? We all know what can happen. Thousands of dollars in damage. Miserable dog, right? Miserable humans. Neighbors complaining. The crate saves lives, right? And the crate, when done properly, it fixes so many mental problems. You know how many people their dog gets extremely fearful in the car. Their dog can't handle being left alone. Use the crate. You fix that problem when you know what you're doing. So Sweden is an example of what's coming, to be quite honest with you. Alrighty. Nick Arnold I think you're right. It's good for an expert like you to be outspoken about this in order for the BS legislation to not come to North America. Oh, it's coming. It's coming, right? Like, you have to understand that it is coming in some form or other. They're going to try. Now, will they succeed? I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if they do, right? And I know, those types they're probably laughing right now and saying, ha ha ha. Well, it's not going to stop me. There's more than one way to skin a cat, let's just say. But it is coming. You have to understand that. And you know who's going to suffer? The dogs at the end of the day. It's always the dogs that suffer. I know already in Sweden the dogs are suffering. The study was flawed. Yes, the study was flawed. So if you want to really talk about the scientific places where the study was flawed, number one, they didn't. This was the biggest failing, and it's the biggest failing for most of these studies. They don't test the dogs in the environment that you're seeing here, right? Like there's none of this in the test. If you did this in the test, you would see a very different result, assuming they were even honest about their results. But regardless, we'll take them at face value, assume that they were. All the positive only dogs fail this test, right? It's just a matter of fact. Now, the only way the positive only crowd can kind of come through this is if what they do is they basically just dispense food into the dog's mouth the whole time. And if you have a dog who has a sufficient level of, motivation and desire, then for sure, you could get through a few minutes doing that, right? So whenever you get a positive only type or force-free type that wants to kind of prove that their training is just as good as yours, they all do the same thing, right? So they go out on the street in front of their house, they take some food in their hand, and they hold the food, like here on their chest, or they just hold it there, and then they say foos or heel, and then they walk and they basically bait the dog the whole time with the food in their hand. Like it's the same kind of stuff that I do for puppies. And that's their proof. I mean, I don't know anybody that wants to go for a walk like you're seeing here in this video, constantly just feeding the dog the whole entire time. That would be kind of exhausting, right? Like that's not how I do things. And that's not how people that train with me do things. So, this is how I walk my dogs, right? This is how I walk my dogs. So some of you guys have seen this video. I just walk. I'll go on my phone. I'll have a coffee. Now this was a commercial, so I'm talking to the camera, but you guys get my point. Like I walk. Like I don't like constantly like worry and look at them and feed them, and you know what I mean? Like I'll give them a nice little word here and there. This is just what we do. Like this is just life. Most people want this. This is what most people want, right? But this doesn't just happen. It's not hot dogs and hope that creates this, right? It's teaching the dog that there's, hey, like you must do it, right? Yes, we give rewards, and you'll actually see me. I think, I rewarded her there, right? Right, and I don't mind rewarding a dog, especially a young dog. Occasionally, the Malinois is a little bit sensitive, a little bit of a nervous dog, so I give her more rewards than the German Shepherd. He's just an asshole. But, and she needs a little more of that, hey, good girl, right? But that's just, you train the dog that's in front of you. But at the end of the day, I don't need to be micromanaging. When I walk, this is how I walk. When we get to the field, I release them. They go play, right? When I tell them something, they listen right away. This is life. This is what most people want. And this is achieved with e-collar training and with negative reinforcement. You don't have to e-collar. I mean, look, there's other ways to create negative reinforcement on a dog. It's surely not the only way, right? So this is what I mean. Like, so going out there, look, I can take a puppy out of my kennel right now that likes food. I'll go on the street and I'll bait the dog with the food and I'll say, look, I'm a positive only trainer and we're training in the real world today. It's not realistic. It's not going to help you. All right. Let's go now and see what else we got in terms of, it's funny that situated canine lady, I think she got a little bit of a lesson because I kind of looked a little bit on her Instagram just there, and I got the impression like she's just kind of like that's all she does is really just criticize other trainers and kind of ridicules them and they ignore her. I didn't ignore her. And I really kind of challenged her, and in the end, she really had nothing. I offered money. I said, I will give you money. Right? Come, $5,000. If you can do what you see me doing in this video here, just go for a walk. I said, let's just go for a 25-minute walk. We're not going to edit. We're not going to do anything. You don't want to, I don't even need e-collars. We take the e-collars off, no problem. Take no e-collars, no treats, no ball, no nothing. Just us and the dogs, 25 minutes. We walk through downtown Kitchener. Let's see what happens, right? Or even if you want to bring food, bring your food. No problem. I'll bring food too, right? And I don't need the e-collar. Let's see what happens. Let's see whose dog is faster. Let's see whose dog is more reliable. We do recalls, distance commands, healings. We can do it all. Let's see what happens, right? $5,000. I put that money down there for her. Excuses, stories. This is what you're dealing with. And this is what I wanted to show people. Let's see. You guys are funny in the comments, man. You guys are hilarious. All right, let's try to get to the pertinent stuff. Was advised to treat when passing. Sorry, guys. Was advised to treat when passing dogs with my reactive dog. He bit me. Oh, man. Yeah, redirection's the thing. You got to be careful with that stuff, man. You got to know what you're doing. Okay, guys. Oh, I guess I should plug my online course. I have an online course that I have one for puppies that doesn't involve any kind of tools. So there's no e-collar, there's no prong collar, nothing. It's actually primarily food training and leash pressure, okay? And it's basically how I train all the puppies here, and of course, full of examples, so on and so forth. And then I also have a training that's for e-collar training, right? I have a training course that will show you how to do, all the stuff that you see me doing in the videos with my dogs. Oh, you guys are talking about the aggressive dog course. Guess what? I just finished the aggressive dog course. It is coming out early next week. So the aggressive dog course, or the reactive, I'm calling it the reactive dog course. I put as much in there as I feel comfortable putting in on the internet. The reality is, some of you guys, if you have a real serious case, you need to go to a trainer. That's it at the end of the day. You have to be careful with this type of stuff, but a lot of you, I think, have really kind of stuff that's easy to deal with. So the reactive dog course will definitely help you with that. Elite member just started puppy online course. My 6-month-old female comes at you like a fur bullet, flies through the air and bites your sleeve and won't let go. Well, Michelle, if you watched my puppy course, I show you what to do for puppy biting, right? You need to hold her accountable. If you don't like the puppy biting, you must correct her for it. How would police, Mark Trinidad, how would police services have police dogs if those restrictions are coming to Canada? Well, two ways. So in some places, they actually make an exception for police dogs. Police dogs aren't held to the same standards that, everybody else is held to, right? I guess only the police dogs need the use of corrective devices. Now, in places like, in some other European countries, they've banned for police dogs as well. So here's the thing with a police dog. If you're selecting dogs for police work, they tend to have a very high desire. They have a very high level of motivation, which is important. As a pet trainer, you're often dealing with dogs that have lower levels of motivation. But police dogs are selected for genetically high levels of motivation, both to eat and to work for objects like a ball or a tug, okay? So if you think about the things that a police dog does, they're primarily things that you can, well, not primarily, they're pretty much all things that you can do exclusively with motivation. As long as you just have a dog on the leash, so you just prevent the dog from kind of going off on the leash, right? You have the leash attached to the harness or the collar for tracking. The dog is basically tracking, completely based on motivation. Like there's not a lot of, you can put compulsion in your tracking, but you don't really need to, especially for a good dog, unless it's one that's developed a bit of a problem. You're doing drug detection or bomb detection. Again, it's like all motivation. You don't need to use compulsion in that. And then bite work, again, if you're not planning anything advanced, you're just going to hold the dog, send the dog on the bad guy, go and choke the dog off or pry the dog off or use a break stick. You don't need any kind of correction, right? Now, does it does it reduce the deployability of the dog and make a dog that's, let's say, less, not at the level that he or she could be at? Of course, if you have strong on and off leash obedience, if you have good control in the bite work, the more control obviously you have on your police service or military working dog, the better. But do you have to have it? No, you can still stay operational without what I would term as control, because you just have a leash and a long line that's always attached to the dog forever and ever, right? So, either way, they'll be fine. And plus, I think also police dogs are going to change radically in the next 10 years. I could be wrong. Sorry, guys, give me a second. I could be wrong, but I think that bite work soon will be banned in many places, even for police dogs. So police dogs won't be used to apprehend people anymore. They'll only be used as single-purpose tracking or detection dogs. It's the way the world is going. Elite member. Dog loves ball as a reward, using treats for teaching new behavior. But when can I switch to ball reward? She's disappointed with the treats. Well, if your dog really hates treats, I mean, for me, the ball is generally it causes a very high state of arousal. So you have to be careful with it. You can't, what's the word? You can't use it before the dog understands the behavior that you're asking for. Once the dog understands the behavior, then you can definitely use the toy. But if you try to use the toy right away, then it can be a little bit difficult. So I recommend, shaping the behavior as much as you can with food and leash pressure, and then once the dog has a basic understanding, adding the toy. All right, guys, let's see here. I'm just going through this looking for real questions. Okay. Sorry, guys, if I missed you. I'm just kind of going up and down. Here. What's your opinion on police using cheap e-collars on on-duty police dogs? I don't think anyone should use a cheap e-collar. All right? Cheap e-collars are a recipe for disaster. When you're using an e-collar, there's a couple things that are really, really important. The timing of the stimulation. So when you push that button, you need to know your dog is receiving the stimulation that you intend for him or her to receive. The level of the stimulation. So with the cheap e-collars, you'll find that the low levels are not that low, and with the high levels are not that high, so you don't have a very good gradient to work on. When I'm training, I'm all over the place, right? Especially when I have a more experienced dog. Sometimes they'll be super low, sometimes they'll be much higher, and I'm up and down all the time in the training because different instances require different levels of correction. You don't have to do that, but I'm just when you're kind of at a bit more of a level in terms of training, you can do it. So for me, whenever I see someone with a cheap e-collar, I say, I'm not going to train with that. It's not good. Now, here's the thing with the e-collar, guys. Elite members, signed up today, but classes say pending. I have a receipt. You send me an email and send me a screenshot of that. I need to take a look at that. So, guys, the e-collar is not a panacea. That's the other thing, right? And I've said it before, I say it again. The e-collar is not for everybody. You really, really need to know what you're doing. I see a lot of people, like I said, they use it as oh man, my dog's really bad, I'm going to use an e-collar. Don't do that. You can't do that. It's not okay. It's not going to go well. The e-collar is something that it's a device for a skilled individual to use, or somebody that at least has some idea as to what they're doing. Now, there are many trainers that are of the opinion that because the e-collar can be misused, and because a lot of people do misuse them, we shouldn't have them. I'm not of that opinion. Because, to be honest, even when I see people that maybe don't use the e-collar in the most ideal way, in many cases, it's the only way that they're able to kind of coexist with their dog. So would I like to see them reward the dog more? Would I like to see that their timing be a little bit better? At the end of the day, Could the dog look more up in the obedience? Of course. But at the end of the day, they're happy. And if they're happy, they're keeping their dog, right? And the dog gets to go and be off leash. So maybe the dog doesn't look so happy in the heel. They release the dog to go play in the field. The dog looks pretty freaking happy. So is it the end of the world? No. For me, the end of the world is when they say, I can't keep this dog anymore, and they get rid of him, right? So, I think it's also overhyped how many people like really screw the e-collar up. I see a lot of people like not use it well, but the let's say the fallout from that is usually just completely ineffective. Like, it's not that the dog is destroyed, it's just that the training's completely ineffective, and they've got the e-collar and they're using it, and the dog's just not reacting to it at all. So, the misuse of a tool is never the argument for the removal of the tool, right? How many people get killed with knives every year? Do we ban them? Well, I guess in the UK they did. Right? Is that where we want to go? We want to live in a nanny state? Some people do. The people with the blue hair, they tend to be pretty insecure people, right? So they do want to live in a nanny state. They want daddy to tell them what to do all the time, right? But, not all of us have that need. Okay. What are your thoughts on the kid who was bitten in the gym by the pit bull type dog? Oh, what a disaster that was. Right? They finally basically had the whole pit bull ban reversed, and then they go and let their dog bite a kid in the face. Hey, for sure they knew that the dog had a problem. That doesn't come out of nowhere. For sure they knew that dog had a problem. Incompetence. I mean, they already lost the dog one time. Then within a week, the dog bites somebody in the face. After becoming the face for repealing the pit bull ban. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, what do you do, right? Silly Pup, Shield Canine Training, your online course has given me so much confidence to make my GSD into the dog I always wanted. Thank you. Well, thank you. I'm glad you're being helped. Okay, amazing. Guys, by the way, a lot of you, I got thrown off a little bit on this little podcast. Because I've been struggling. I'm still, I don't feel like I'm able to interact properly with you guys. I got to figure this tech out. I probably shouldn't have used this tech today. But anyways, at the end of the day, a lot of you guys that are from like a scientific background, because it turns out there are a few scientists and medical professionals that follow me, you guys pointed out the specific issues within the study. And for sure, those are valid. Again, it's YouTube, so I'm trying to not lose people. I understand that there was, when I read through the study, just the brief way that I did read through it, I saw a lot of the issues as well. I'm surely not a scientist, right? But if you have common sense and you kind of understand how, what the rules of a good scientific study are, you can see the failures there. And just the fact that, again, they didn't hold. For me, again, we can talk about 100 different things. At the end of the day, the study was not conducted in a real-world environment, right? It's not. And that was it at the end of the day. Listen, my brethren in the UK, I think at the time of that study, they made, or not even, within the last, few months, they offered £60,000 to anyone that could positive-only train a dog to stop chasing sheep. No one took them up on it. This was in the country where there's supposedly all these positive-only trainers that are out doing e-collar training. I don't know, I don't know what to say to that. Do you need to say anything else? £60,000? It tempted me to dye my hair blue and, walk around with a e-collar with a line through it, saying e-collars are a boost, and go there and collect that £60,000. £60,000! That's big money. That's more than most of these people make in a year. Why did anyone go there? Anyways, let's see. 2 dogs fight aggressively. Neither seems to mind. Is it a problem? Ken, I don't know what you're saying there. I would hope that you're talking about play fighting. If they're happy and nobody's taking it too far, go for it. If it's a real fight, then someone's going to the hospital, or someone's going to end up with holes in them. So for sure, that's a big problem that does need to be fixed. And the e-collar is not the solution to dogfighting. Now, the funny thing is, a lot of these positive-only trainers believe that you use an e-collar to correct reactivity or to correct, dog fighting or all this type of stuff. You don't. They just think that we use the e-collar all the time for everything. Not at all. The e-collar has its place, and it's part of a multi-varied training system that's across a wide spectrum. Any kind of question about dog prices, guys, I don't answer. You can go online and see what the prices are. You want to go and look around and, get a puppy from whoever. Everybody's got a different price. What to do when a dog's coat is too thick? Oh, use wings. Use the brass winged contacts. Those work better. Let me see here. My opinion on the Easy Educator, it's good. I like it. I use mini educators all the time. Let me see here. Sorry, guys, just going through the chat. She backpedaled so quickly and changed the subject. You're right, Sue. She did. So, for those of you that were following it, first she was saying, basically that the study was right, and I just didn't understand the science. Shaming language, the usual. So then, when I challenged her and we went back and forth a few times, we basically said, okay, I admit that your dog can heel better than mine, and you're going to beat me, but it's not about efficacy, it's about ethics or something like that. It's like, huh? The study was literally about how effective positive reinforcement training is versus e-collar training. It's like, what? What are you talking about? Talking about moving the goalposts, right? But that's what they do, right? They get backed into a corner. Your little class didn't prepare you for me. Because, like I said, this is what needs to start happening. When these people come, I want the smoke. Bring the smoke, right? Listen, they pick on some low-hanging fruit online, right? There's a lot of dog trainers online that do the e-collar training, and they're working for a franchise or something, and let's be honest, they're not that good at it, right? So it's easy to kind of pick apart what they do. I'm not that guy. I'm not the one, right? So if you come at me, get ready. If you at me, get ready. You're going to get the smoke, right? And I'm going to tell you, put up or shut up, right? So, and predictably, a bunch of her friends, I know they went scrolling through my Instagram looking for something, right? They looked for something. They found I have a little video of a husky with a really bad bite history. Bites her owners a lot. Just a jerk of a husky, right? And she bites her owners over the feet, touching the feet, basically anything she doesn't like. She's bitten multiple people. So I just have a video where we're joking around. She's on the table, and we're sitting next to her, giving her kisses and stuff, and she's just so mad, right? Because she can't bite. She knows she can't bite, and we taught her she couldn't bite. And I absolutely have no compunction about that. When you bring me a dog that's biting his owners, there's nothing I won't do to make that dog not bite. You want to talk about cookies and thresholds and learned helplessness? You train that dog. Video it. People will be coming to you. People will follow you. You'll have more business than you know what to do with. But you can't train that dog. So you come on my page and you want to talk and all that type of stuff. We know. And I know. Those type of dogs come to you. You guys turn your back on those dogs. You make up stories. She was abused. No, she wasn't. She was loved. She's very well loved by her owners. They still love her, by the way, even though she's still a jerk, right? She's just a jerk that has a little bit of impulse control now because she learned that there's consequences when she bites. And no, the consequence isn't the removal of food and attention. That doesn't work. And here's why it doesn't work. This is what they don't understand about a lot of dogs, right? A lot of dogs get more reward by doing things like biting people, right? Or barking at another dog. They get a much higher level of intrinsic, let's say, dopamine. It's more rewarding for them to do that than your liver treat is. So what do you do with that, right? That dog likes to chase squirrels more than she wants your ball or your liver treat. for her, the squirrel, chasing the squirrel. She doesn't have to catch a squirrel, just chasing it. Oh, so fun, right? What are you going to do for that now? Well, I'll do the thresholds and I'll use the leashes and yeah, I'll just train the dog. You can talk, right? Now it's the same thing for the biting, right? A lot of dogs, like that husky, she learned anything I don't like, anything that makes me a little bit uncomfortable. What am I going to do? I'm going to bite, right? Well, guess what? You can play your little threshold games and the food games and starve her or whatever. She'll take your food and still bite you. Oh, you don't know, Has. You just, if you learn the better way, you'll be like us. Here, you know what? Let's talk positive reinforcement. All these positive, they always talk like their positive only reinforcement training is like the best, like that they have like some kind of secret, okay? This is real training here. Look at this room full of dogs. Look at me with my dog, okay? This is real training. There's his ball, so there's the positive reinforcement. I'm not using e-collar in this video at all, right? This is real positive reinforcement training. You'll never see these people doing videos like this with this level of distraction. You see my dog's commitment, right? And this isn't a, ooh, look at me. There's other guys that can do this too, right? It's because I know how to generate arousal and create a dopamine rush for my dog that gets him to completely commit to what it is that we're doing together. It's not based on the e-collar, right? You'll never see these people post videos like this. You'll never see them show this level of work. I love to show work under distraction because for me that's real. This is real training, right? So, talk to me about what I don't know. And believe me, there are a lot of things I don't know. The problem is those aren't the people that are going to tell me anything I don't know. My favorite in this video was this part where a dog kind of goes after him a little bit. Where was it? Yeah, the dogs are just like losing it. You will never see one of them ever post a video like this. They just don't have the ability. They don't have the skills, the training. Their dogs don't have that level of work. And you'll never see them working a dog like this, right? Like my Gage. High level, the drive is too extreme. You always see them working like the soft. I always know like the breed before I even click on the profile. They're going to have like some if they're showing any kind of training, it's going to be like an Australian Shepherd, a Border Collie, or like some soft female male from Pet Lines, right? They can't handle anything with much more intensity than that, right? Because that type of dog is going to, push back. That type of dog is going to say, I'm not going to do those things. I'm not going to give up my ball. I'm not going to trade for a piece of food, right? Here's the other thing, right? My training is not just for high drive dogs, right? The training that we do, look, this is a Kangol mix, right? This dog bit people. She got into dog fights. Your typical Kangol stuff, right? Not a pure Kangol. I know the purists on here from Eastern Europe will get mad at me. It's not a pure Kangol. This is like an 8-year-old. How was it? No, I think she was like 3-4 years old, right? And the control that you can get with a dog like this under distractions, right? How's this possible? Is it possible with cookies and hope? No. Again, this is the history. Like I don't speak about things I can't do. I wish that they kind of had the same outlook. If you can't do it, don't talk about it. If you haven't done it, don't talk about it. Anyways. Let me find our little thing here. Okay. Shade White Cell claims to be force-free. Listen. You don't believe her? I have no reason to disbelieve Shade. Here's the thing with Shade. And, I'd say this to her if she asked me, so I have no problem saying this. There are some positive-only trainers out there that have skill, right? Like, they're really good at positive-only training. Now, the second you add in a little bit of adversity, like, hey, the dog starts, I don't know, redirecting, then is often you'll see that they, that's where kind of everything falls apart. But there's some positive only trainers out there for sure. You can learn something from them, right? You don't take everything from them, but you can learn something from them. Like they've really mastered the art of capturing behaviors, shaping behaviors, you know, playing with variable rates of reinforcement to optimize the output from the dog. For sure, they can do a lot. But again, you'll always see that number one, they'll never show training in kind of like a variable, realistic environment. So, like the videos that you see of my dogs in the city, because it's variable, you can't practice for it. Some of them, like Shade, they're able to go, and do IGP with their dog. Not on the top levels, but they can do IGP, right? For me, it was a question of like, would I watch a Shade video and learn something? I'm sure I would. If I had the choice between watching her and somebody who competes on the top levels, well, of course you go and watch the guy on the top levels because obviously he's done it and he's been there and there's more to see and learn from that, right? So, but listen, I'm not saying that there's nothing to learn from positive only training for sure. If you master your ability, like for me, I'm like, I actually am pretty good at positive reinforcement. I kind of understand it. I'm good at it. What a lot of positive reinforcement trainers aren't good at is pressure. They're not good at negative reinforcement or positive punishment. They don't understand it. It's kind of like the scary dark world that they have no clue about. They make a lot of assumptions. It's like the dark side of the force. It's like you're not allowed to even go there. Or no one can see you even think about it. For me, no problem. I've been all over the dark side, but I've also been on the light side. I like to use all the sides, right? So, let's see here. Is the microeducator small enough for a Chihuahua mix? 6 pounds. I don't know. You might be a little bit too small there. It's not that much smaller than the mini. Where do I see the future of dog training? Well, it depends where you are, Roderick. The future of dog training, it can change. It's a tough one, right? The future of dog training can be. It depends where you are. So, like in North America, there's actually a lot of people that have picked up balance training. In North America, there are tons of people that, like, I see a lot of guys picking up e-collars and prong collars and kind of like just doing like basic training with it and opening franchises. I see it like so many of them starting even all around me here, right? At the end of the day, when the laws change, and I'm sure at some point, unless we get distracted by a world war or something, appropriately distracting, that might and will happen, then you'll see a lot of those trainers kind of get pushed out. Also, you see a lot of these guys, listen, the e-collar and the prong collar does not mean you're a good trainer just because you have it. To be honest, most of the people that do have that do train with the e-collar prong collar, they're not very good, right? That's me just being honest. Like, they're not actually really all that good. They don't really understand the tool in all its complexities. Are they good enough to outperform situated canine? Sure, right? Just about anybody is. But at the end of the day, are they maximizing the potential from those devices? No. So, but those types of trainers are popping up all around me, like like mushrooms. Okay, I think that the business right now is a business where you can make a lot of money, and there are people making tons and tons of money. But I think there's going to be a lot of people jumping into that business that you're going to see that there's going to be 2 tiers of trainers. There's going to be the top tier, okay, and then there's going to be the lower tier guys where they're all just kind of competing for the same clients, and the price of that training is going to go down, 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 right? So be one of the top tier guys and you'll do well. That's what I think about the business right now. Do I specialize in bite work? I specialize in everything. I'm not a one-trick pony. I do bite work and I do obedience. I would say my specialty is bite work and obedience. Those are my 2 specialties. They're my favorite things to do. Maybe obedience first. I think I like obedience a little more than I like bite work, as much as I like bite work. You seem to prefer German Shepherds for protection dogs. Any particular reason? Yes, balance. They're balanced. They have good balance working traits. So, good dogs for the family, good dogs for the work. What is the real intention to do a research to ban e-collars? Well, the intention is the animal rights activists that are funded by millions of dollars in charitable donations have decided that e-collars are evil, and basically anyone who doesn't train their way is evil and abusive, and you either comply or we charge you with animal abuse. That's basically the long and the short of it. Okay, guys, we've been going for quite a while. I think, I'm actually not very happy with this live. I'm really not that happy with this live. I don't like that I can't really see things. I feel like things are a little bit disorganized. So sorry for that. I am going to go back to the drawing board and figure this out. But thank you for tuning in, and we'll have another one soon. I need to figure this stuff out.